This is our final game in our series of legendary world champion Anatoly Karpov. And I felt that it was fitting to end his 10 games that I chose for him with the 1985 World Championship match, because this is where he finally lost his crown to one of the next champions we're going to be looking at, GK, the boss, Garry Kasparov. So, let's get right into it. And we have another clinic by Karpov, and we have a standard just Queen's Gambit decline position. And Knight A6 is kind of interesting. Kasparov chooses this idea, and he didn't learn from the first match about playing isolated pawn positions against Karpov. Karpov just does so well against these positions, and we'll see in this game he trades advantages just like we saw in the previous game. And what type of style that we say that Karpov plays in?
The Cobra?
Not Cobra.
The Boa?
It's a squeeze tighter and tighter until it's done. So, Cobra. All right, castles, knight e4. And if he was to take, this would help that pawn get to a better square. It's isolated, so we don't want to do that. Keep the pressure. Now, pawn's still isolated. Kasparov's got the bishop pair, but the bishops aren't really good if they're stuck defending things. Then he starts doubling, and right here he makes a very interesting decision that when I'm going through the game, I figured he would wait a lot longer before making any sort of change, but he took the opportunity right now. He goes into a bishop of opposite color endgame. And what you should know about bishop of opposite color is one side's bishop is only going to be able to attack the color that it's on. So in this case, Karpov's bishop, white, can only attack things on the light squares. Kasparov's bishop will only be able to attack things on the dark squares. So, whoever is the aggressor with extra pieces in a bishop of opposite color endgame typically has the advantage, because imagine, if I use my queen and two rooks to attack a point, that's say on a light square, if he uses all of his queen and rooks to defend that square, my bishop is going to add an extra attacker and we're going to win a pawn. Make sense? So, if you were to get rid of the queen and rooks, the bishops cancel each other out, and it makes the position very, very drawish, because neither side can make progress very easily. And there are many theoretical endgames showing how bishop of opposite color is very, very difficult to win. You can have sometimes up to 3 extra pawns and not be able to win, because the bishop can make blockades or can potentially sacrifice to make a draw. So, bishop g4, attacking a weakness. Tickle on the bishop, defends the bishop. He's got the gun going. Alekine's gun. Love it. Queen d3. Got the pillar as well. Tickle. And I like this game again because notice another small advantage that white has. White only has 2 pawn islands. We got 1 and we got 2. Black, on the other hand, has 3 pawn islands, meaning more weaknesses to attack. The base of the pawn chain is always the weakest point. It is not easy at all for black to get to any of white's weaknesses. White, on the other hand, goes, there's all these open squares on your king. If only I could line my queen and bishop up, I could probably give you some problems there on h7. The rest of the theme of the game is Karpov negotiating his pieces to go after these weak squares and weaknesses. So bishop g6, bishop d3, and see how the bishop and queen are negotiating to get them lined up. Kasparov sees that the queen's going there, so he says no. So Karpov plays e4 to try to trade and get that square anyway. C2. Queen E2. And finally, after takes, we're getting closer. He finally gets it after all of that maneuvering. Let's see who this is. Hello? On our way. Thomas. So, King G8, check. Upstairs office. There. Or, no. Get back. I lied. Ah, get back. She walked way too fast. Run and go get her. She needs her stuff downstairs. Okay, so, King H8. They'll figure it out in a minute. So, check. And he keeps harassing Black's king because if Black doesn't make defensive moves, he gets mated. Queen H7. So, he's defending. Doesn't want to trade. If you trade, yeah, it's equal. Got to keep the tension. Harassing the bishop. And now that rook went from being passive on F1 to an active, aggressive piece on F3. Like I said, this is classic Karpov, just slowly improving your pieces, causing more and more problems for your opponent. And again, we go back to that concept of boa constrictor. You know, like, if it's slow improvement causing pressure on your opponent, can you start to understand what I'm talking about with the style, with putting the squeeze on somebody? King E7. Coming around. Check. Again, just slowly improving. Cutting off key squares. And Queen E5 is the last move of the game. Because in this position, I think the computer had something at like plus 12. So here's an example from computer analysis how the game could go. So Black tries to defend checks. Can't defend them all. Keeps checking him. Check. And now the king can't run anymore. So the best you've got is this. And this is an easy win with the queen versus the b. Pawn isn't fast enough to run. Just check a few times, pick it up. GG. So that ends our series on great world champion Anatoly Karpov. And I think we may have some other games in here before I start on Kasparov, or we may jump right into Kasparov because Kasparov's got a plethora of amazing games. I mean, tactical as well as positional. Beautiful games. Mostly tactical. So, we'll figure it out.